Hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast, where we tackle the question often faced after a late autism diagnosis. What's next? We are your hosts. My name is Claire, and my pronouns are she, they. I'm one of the coordinators of the National Autistic Society Scotland's What's Next programme. I received my autism diagnosis several years ago in my mid-20s, and I'm now honoured to work with others embarking on that journey too. Your other host is my lovely colleague, Heather.
Hi everyone, my name's Heather and my pronouns are she, her, and I was diagnosed at the age of 23, around 3 years ago. I also work on the What's Next project alongside Claire. The What's Next project provides group support to recently diagnosed or self-identifying autistic adults. This podcast aims to take the information that we cover within the What's Next groups and present them to a wider audience, as well as covering topics in more depth and with guest speakers. In this first episode, we will focus on late diagnosis and identity, a topic that we cover in detail within the groups. And we have two fantastic guests joining us today as well.
Thanks for coming along today, guys. It's really great to have you both here with us. So we'll start with some introductions. If you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself, so your name, when you were diagnosed, and maybe 3 things that bring you joy. Carolyn, do you want to go first?
You know I was going to, because I was just going to burst out talking. So hi, I'm Carolyn. I was diagnosed, it's a good few years ago now, but it feels like yesterday, and it was a long drawn out thing. So I am autistic. I also have ADHD, which in my case is quite a chaotic combination. And I think I'm already going to go a bit off piece by saying maybe more than 3 things that bring me joy. But that's what I do. Well, I absolutely love my music. I love the warmth of the sun, which hopefully we'll get some soon. I love vivid, bright colours, hence my background, hence me. Love to laugh, would go insane without laughter. And last but by no means least, I absolutely adore and get so much joy from my wee girls, my wee cats. But I know we can't really delve into our furry friends, or it's all we'll talk about. So those are some of the things that bring me joy. And it's way more than 3, but they do. That's me.
Carolyn. That's beautiful. And everybody here loves our pets so much. We're all an animal crazy bunch. It's brilliant. So Lou, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi, my name is Lou. I have been diagnosed just over a year now, and I got diagnosed at 43, sorry, I forget my age, which is quite a long time, quite a shock. So still coming to terms with that, but it's good. 3 things that bring me joy. Music. Same as Carolyn. I am completely and utterly obsessed with music. I count time signatures in my head when I fall asleep. If I hear a song, I'm like, oh, what time signature is that? I'm trying to think my second one. Dogs. I am dog crazy. They absolutely bring me joy. I love them so much. I love to rescue dogs as well. Don't know what I'd do without them. And 3, it's funny because it's quite similar, as well as the bright colours and things.
Yeah.
It's the sun. The sun. I am just a different human being when the sun comes out, and I feel like, why am I living in Scotland?
Thanks so much, guys. It's really lovely to have you here with us. Really great to hear a little bit about you. And we're going to dive straight into the first question. So the first question is, what was your main takeaway from the What's Next group? Because you were both previous participants. But actually, to begin, we have a previous participant who shared a little bit about her experience in writing, because she's not here with us today on the podcast. And I'll read that to start us off. So she said, "Hello, I'm Hannah, and I work with the Moving Forward programme at the National Autistic Society Scotland, where I support autistic young people to build confidence in their ability to progress to positive destinations. I was diagnosed at the age of 27, only a few months after starting to work for the NAS. Although I work with autistic young people and my team are super supportive, I struggle to find the time and the self-permission to fully process this new but old version of me. Having the opportunity to attend What's Next opened this door. It gave me an avenue to reflect on myself in a safe, positive, and welcoming space. Hearing others' stories and experiences made me feel much less alone, and I now feel able to talk more openly about my own diagnosis, strengths, and elements of my life that I do need support with. Being supported by a full team of autistic staff that also shared their experiences was another highlight of the programme. I would fully recommend exploring this opportunity, whether you're just considering if you're autistic or have already received a diagnosis. So it was great to hear Hannah's experience. Carolyn, I don't know if you resonate with that at all. Would you like to share a little bit about your time with us on What's Next?
I do. I was part of such a lovely group. And so definitely in my experience, I cannot recommend it enough. I know, I think the question was a kind of a main takeaway, but again, I'm going to be Carolyn and I'm going to touch on a few things. But again, what I loved was the fact for once I was somewhere I was normal, because in the wider outside world, I am and always have been to everyone weird. And to me, I'm like, I'm not weird. And so again, meeting other autistic people, it's like, oh, we're complete like this. I'm normal amongst like my peers, and this is great. Like for me, it was really nice to feel kind of normal as opposed to being weird in a really like negative way. So that was fab. There was also a wonderful, wonderful volunteer on my group and with myself. So I struggle to verbally articulate myself. And for me, as I say a lot to people, can you speak to me in like child language, like really simple lingo or whatever, so that I can take things in and process it. And there was this absolutely lovely volunteer, and they said so many things I could connect to so deeply in such simple words, and it meant so much to me. Just having that understanding and that empathy, and again feeling less alone. And I think of them, quite regularly, and that meant so much to me. But something that I also found really, really positive is with my stimming, which for most of my life, I used to really suppress, is I was like, so I'm going to come on the group and I'm going to be myself. And I know my stimming, can be really intense. And I noticed, because I just let it all out when I started the group. And as I describe it, I kind of looked like I was in like a silent rave. I'm going back and forth, I'm fidgeting, I'm sweating, and no one seemed to care. And so as the program went on, I noticed, because I could be myself and I could stim and everyone was kind of cool with it, or seemed to be, my stimming lessened as the weeks went by, and that was amazing for me. And like my dizziness, it went down so much, and it was just like, oh, this is great, because it's so challenging. And so I just, in my life outside of NAS, I refuse to stim and not stim because I need to. So that was so helpful for me. And I think about that, like when I'm with the group, it's like just being able to be myself, stim, and be, and not feel like I'm causing problems or being a nuisance or being difficult. So yeah, that was my takeaway.
That's so great to hear, Carolyn. Thank you so much.
So the next question is, how did it feel when you first realised that you're autistic, and how does it compare to how you feel now? And we'll start off with Lou.
It's funny because I was on a waiting list to get the assessment, and I'd cancelled it quite a few times to get the assessment because I was so anxious about it. So that already gave the assessors a big clue. And I'd also been diagnosed with ADHD a few years beforehand. Somehow I found that really easy to accept because it was the cool, trendy sort of version to have. And, I don't know, it's it's got spontaneity connected to it and, exciting things. So when I got the phone call, I just kind of went numb, and I had a big meeting to go to afterwards, actually, and I was just completely disconnected from everything. And it was shock, a lot of shock, and I thought I'd be happy. I thought I'd be really happy, and I thought it would feel very validating, but the overriding emotion that I felt was grief. And I'm still kind of coming to terms with it, like I said previously, because, that's most of my life, or all of my life. I didn't know that. And I feel like I've been another person until I got that diagnosis. So, yeah, I guess it was validating, but still processing it. Still very new, I think. And I've noticed I've got friends that got late diagnosed as well, and everybody seems to process it differently. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Lou. I totally resonate with everything you just said. I think feelings of grief come up so much, and they come up in the group discussions a lot. Grief for past you, grief for struggling through and absorbing so much negative messaging about yourself, grief for the future that you thought you were going to have that actually looks different. Some good, some bad differences, but different nonetheless. Grief about internalized ableism and all the time and effort that's now needed to unpick and dissect and understand yourself and what autism is and what that means for you. And I think so. For me, I know that my diagnosis, I responded slightly differently to you. It was a really brilliant, comforting, and validating moment. I just wanted to yell it from the rooftops, and I was like, finally, I have an explanation. I can start this journey of understanding myself now, although it started a little bit. But the grief and the upset and the anger was still there so strongly. I had masked so intensely, and all this self-blame and criticism lobbied both at me and inwardly at myself still there. And I know that trying to figure out who I am, like, why do I like the things I like? Is that because it's what's expected of me, or is that actually who I am? And, I even had a whole wobble about my voice and my accent and what that actually sounds like, because I learned from my diagnostic report that apparently my voice and my accent changes drastically, sometimes multiple times within one sentence, depending who I'm talking to and what the topic is. So that was quite difficult to get my head around, and it was exhausting, dissecting every part of my past and my current self. But I think for me, I think now it's an overwhelmingly positive thing. Two things at once is difficult, isn't it? Because I'm proud to be autistic, but and I think it's beautiful, and I love meeting autistic people through my work. We're amazing, but that doesn't negate the difficulties that we face, and so it's all there together. But I'm much more able now to advocate for my needs than when I was first diagnosed, and I think that's huge. But yeah, I wonder, Carolyn, how did it feel for you to grow up undiagnosed?
It's been a long one. I'm kind of like, I think, a sage at this point. I think I'm a bit older than a couple of you. I'm 41. I was like, am I 41? I'm 41 now, but something that was always there. Firstly, it was very, very obvious, honestly, 3, 4, 5 years old, that, again, speaking third person, Carolyn is different. What's wrong with Carolyn? And what has underlined that is immense sadness. again, knowing myself, I was different. When I was younger, again, there are a lot of kind of classic autism traits, the eating difficulties. Again, I remember it in the 80s, going mute, not being able to make eye contact, like yourself, Claire. When I was about 7, again, the voice I was talking, I didn't realize in a baby voice for a long period of time. And I remember even teachers and my mum would try to understand what is going on. But Carolyn was always different. And because, again, with my brain, I couldn't always articulate things, and having the chaos as well in there, I didn't get, why can't I understand things the way other people do? Why am I feeling things so intensely? Why do I see things so differently to people? The good and the bad, the intense joys, the sensory processing, but the underlying theme there was sadness, because it was a problem for a lot of people. Difficult, that the meltdowns, and my meltdowns, admittedly, they look so extreme growing up, but that's because I felt things so deeply. And again, like you've mentioned, Claire, with the masking, like Oscar-worthy masking, and then after school or after work or whatever, I'm in a ball, exhausted. As a kid, as well, because you're exhausted by it, but you also don't get it. You're just a kid. You're just a teenager. You're just a young adult, and there is a real sadness there, because I remember being 4 and 5 and 6 and all of that like it was yesterday. I can tell you the rooms I was in, the teachers I was with, my parents, what I was wearing, and just these struggles, and people would note it, and oh, she's just a bit quiet, she's just a bit weird, and it was like it was hell inside, and you're a child. So yeah, sadness. And just if I could quickly, because I know it's a popular program, I was advised to watch a few years ago and I binged it, Stranger Things, the show. There's a character, if nobody has seen it, called 11 in the show. And again, simple things for me. And I do still think of it quite often, because I do get down about things, where there's, a season, an episode, she's different, and she just says, I do not belong. And that's how I felt for most of my life. So yeah, a lot of sadness, as well as the frustration and the anger. But yeah, it's been a long journey.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. And Lou, I don't know about you. How did you feel growing up undiagnosed?
Very similar to Carolyn again. I was very, very quiet, very shy, almost, mute. In the school reports, she's very, very intelligent, but she doesn't really speak, or she struggles with friendships. And yeah, I felt like I absolutely didn't belong. I felt like an alien, a total freak. It's just bizarre, like looking back now, and you just see that little person trying to get through life the best that they could. And I definitely feel compassion for me. It's funny, I like visualize things so clearly. So it makes me a bit sad, really. Yeah, and then because I had this sort of intelligence, especially in the creative sort of side of things, I felt a lot of pressure, probably from myself, to do really, really well. And then I guess that's when the masking / camouflaging started to really take over. And I guess truly it wasn't until college when I actually actively thought, I remember going into the bus and to college thinking in my head, right, I'm going to be a completely different person. And I walked into that class and I just became a different person. And it's so bizarre because it's kind of affected who I am now, which is sort of bubbly and chatty. That's how people perceive me. But that's not who I really am. And that mask is sort of falling away slowly. But yeah, it kind of helped me get through life very successfully, but at a cost. So did very well in college, got a job in graphic design straight away. I moved up the career ladders and oh gosh, 1999. It was the dawn of the internet. So because I was a web designer, it was the industry just went crazy. I became like management in sort of space of 3 years. So I was very young, very high pressured. And every time that happened, I know now that I burned out. And I was signed off work and it kept happening. And it was a pattern, no matter what career or, I sort of decided I wanted to do. It's so weird. It's just it feels like a dream almost, and bizarre. But I can't do it anymore. I just can't do it anymore.
No, thanks, Lou. Thanks, both of you. Heather, what about you?
I can really relate to what Carolyn and Lou have both said, that feeling of not belonging despite trying so hard to fit in. I experienced selective mutism from about the age of 10, and I was often nonverbal in school, which meant that I was completely ostracized by my peers, which was really difficult. But when you're diagnosed as well, you tend to blame yourself for everything that you're struggling with because you don't have any other explanation. You don't know that you're autistic, you just know that everything seems more difficult for you than it does for everyone else around you. So I think it really affects your self-worth as well. And I grew up feeling that there was something wrong with me, that I was somehow less worthy of friendship and acceptance than everyone else, because that was what I was kind of being taught. And I tried as hard as I could to fix it, just like Lou said, put that pressure on myself to kind of be perfect and to mask and to make myself worthy of friendship and acceptance, but it just didn't work because I was autistic and there was nothing to fix. I know that now. I just needed some support at the time that I didn't get. But just to finish off, I think one thing that is really important to talk about when we talk about late diagnosis is just that the impact of growing up undiagnosed doesn't just go away after getting your diagnosis. I think it can take a lot of time to heal from everything that we might have experienced, whether it's bullying or social rejection or low self-worth from those sort of negative self-beliefs. And so that's why I think early diagnosis and autism awareness are just so incredibly important. How did disclosure to friends and family go for you? So for me, I was lucky enough to have quite positive or at least neutral reactions. But Claire, I know that you've had more of a mix.
Yeah. I've had good experiences, bad experiences, and neutral ones as well. It can be hard to disclose that you're autistic after a late diagnosis because we're often met with like well-intentioned but really misinformed comments, like quotation marks. We're all a little bit autistic, which yeah, we hear this a lot, but it's right. It's not the case. Not everyone is a little bit autistic, and you are or you're not autistic. And every autistic person, as we here know, experiences autism in very different ways. Like, we'll all have things in common, but our autism is unique to us. So these types of comments, which I've experienced, they're really hurtful and they're really invalidating. And upon thinking about it, many hours thinking about it, when people in our lives have only known the masked version of us, who up until finding out that we're autistic have scrambled desperately to hold everything together in front of everyone else, it makes sense that they might be a little bit surprised if they've only seen that masked version. So 2 bad reactions in particular stand out, and I won't go into loads of detail because they're not fun stories, but it's important to talk about them as well, I think. One of them, somebody who I worked in close proximity with, who I considered a friend, said to me, I couldn't possibly be autistic because I'm not a rude word. that they chose, and then proceeded to like vexedly list all the things that they disliked about the one other autistic person that they knew. And while I suppose always a silver lining, it's nice to know that they thought I wasn't all these horrible things, and they considered me likable and a friend. It was not the compliment that they thought it was. It was severely ableist. It was invalidating, and it was really hurtful at the time. But I know that those kinds of responses, those experiences, they don't reflect who I am. They don't reflect my self-worth. And it's just a case that a lot of people are not educated about autism and neurodivergence. However, on a positive note, by the time that I was diagnosed, I'd largely found my tribe, so to speak, all of whom are in some way also neurodivergent. That tends to be the case. We find each other, don't we? So I joke that I was peer reviewed before I got my formal diagnosis, and therefore coming out wasn't hard to my closest people, because they knew before I did. The best response, though, which I remember so fondly, was right after my diagnosis, when I went back to university to do a master's degree, and I had to work on a group project. So we had to meet to discuss the work. And of course, the group chose a really busy, loud environment. I was so nervous. I was so anxious, deadly anxious, worried about using my noise cancelling headphones, about having my visual specs glasses, which I'm wearing today, in case they thought I was wearing sunglasses indoors and maybe judged me for it. I don't know. Worried that I might have to leave without any explanation because I might just panic. I was worried I would be overly sweaty. I was worried I wouldn't be able to get my words across properly. So many worries. So with the support and guidance of my amazing National Autistic Society student mentor, we decided that I would tell them up front and just let them know, so that if I did need any support, it was explained. So I arrive and I have a whole script prepared, of course I do. And I said that, I've just been diagnosed autistic, ready to continue. And one of the girls cuts me off there, and she raises her fizzy juice to the air and she goes, "Way! Like, congratulations!" And she was so celebratory, and she said something along the lines of, "That must be a huge weight off your shoulders," which was followed by reassurance from everybody else that any accommodation that I might need would go unquestioned. And actually getting a bit emotional thinking about it, because they have no idea. Well, maybe they do, but I don't think they have any idea how meaningful that was, and how that still, it stays with me. So a very mixed bag, and it can go so many different ways. So we talk about disclosure a lot on the What's Next groups, because different things will happen, different experiences will happen. And I think the most important takeaway that we always try and remind people is that disclosure of your autism is very much a personal decision. And it's good to remember that you can share as much or as little information as you want to about your autism, with who you want and when you want to. But Carolyn, you had a response to what I was saying there. Do you want to share a little bit?
I did. I was trying to, again, you know me with the ADHD brain. When I get excited, I'm going to jump in and interrupt. So I was like hands under legs, do not interrupt. But when you made the comment there, which I'm sure we have all heard, hence our expressions that, oh, well, everyone's a little autistic. I've heard it too, not in family. I would say maybe more on the, let's say relationships, friendships or whatever. And I will speak up because I am fueled by injustice and unfairness. And also I will advocate for myself. So when I hear that, I will absolutely say no. Not everybody is a little autistic. Like you said, we are or we aren't. However, autism, as we know, has a spectrum, hence we're all here. So I've heard that a few times, as we all have. In regards to myself, again, with some family members, it was kind of like, well, why did it take so long, kind of the ones that saw the real Carolyn, and again, sharing a sadness and how long it took, because with myself, not to get into it too much, but I was in, I'll call it services for so many years. And it was so clear finally with my autism team, I was autistic, and also they could see the ADHD. But also just something to touch on, again, I think sometimes maybe some parents or some family members, they possibly feel sadness too, like, you know, what, like it's their fault, if there's a fault to be an autistic, again, a lack of education, a lack of knowledge, and, you know, feeling that they failed you, which again, our circumstances are different. Again, I'm 41 now. The 80s and 90s possibly are quite different now when it comes to seeing, suspecting children or young adults, you know, or teens may be autistic or not. But yeah, it can be a real mixed bag. But I think with, you know, a lot of parents, if they feel they've done something wrong, we're to blame, they're not, you know, but, you know, you can learn more about it, and, you know, we can just try and move forward together and, you know, feel the feels about it. So yeah, I thought I'd add a wee bit there about that.
Yeah, thanks. I think, yeah, feel the feels about it, whatever they may be. I love that. I think that's right. And there's no wrongdoing. Autism is a normal, regular experience many of us have. And I think it comes down to lack of education, which we're improving slowly. We're improving slowly. But thank you, Carolyn. On the topic of masking, which has come up a few times, masking, for those listening that maybe don't know, is a term that describes how autistic people consciously or unconsciously hide their autistic traits to appear non-autistic in order to blend in and be more socially accepted. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience of masking? And we'll start with Lou.
Yeah, I think I probably touched on it in the previous conversation, but it's like I didn't know who I was. I don't know. I don't think I still know who I am. And it's really bizarre. I'm always ever changing, like a chameleon. That's probably a good way of describing how I've evolved as a human. But the masking was heavy in, you know, later education. That's when it really, really started to take over, and become this almost like professional human being. And it's not, I'm very silly, I'm very weird, and I stand by that. I'm happy with that. I'm so creative, I don't know what to do sometimes. So yeah, going and studying graphic design, I kind of knew in my head, well, that's probably going to be a career rather than, you know, doing expressive art, which my art teachers got really annoyed at me for. And I was also really annoyed that you couldn't do two creatives at the time. And I don't know if that's changed. I really hope that's changed, but that was the 90s. But yeah, getting a job in the graphic design industry, it was like, you now must wear black trousers and a shirt and, you know, dress this certain way, act a certain way. It was like I was having to learn how to fit into the 9 to 5. It was a very extreme 9 to 5. It was, you know, work as hard as you possibly can to your own detriment, work weekends, work overtime. And I felt like this persona evolving where I became very businesslike. I think still the weird parts and the creative bits of me stuck out because I was meeting like CEOs of oil companies and managing and designing their websites. And, you know, previously I'd communicated with them on email and I always signed off Lou, and they assumed I was a man as well. So when they met me in reception, they're like, "We're here to see Lou." And I was like, "Yes, that's me." I think I was a bit goth at the time, a bit business goth.
Love it.
I'm still, I couldn't completely suppress it. But yeah, holding these huge meetings, and then the part of me that was kind of going la 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 in my brain, sort of dissociating from the meeting. And this used to happen, it was really bad quite a lot of the time. I was taking notes about changes for the websites, but then I'd sort of see myself drifting off and like dancing on the table. And it was kind of like this weird fight to, my real self was there. And then I was holding this meeting. It always led to burnout. Now I know that is burnout. I just couldn't handle it, being this different person, and my brain and body knew, but the doctors, it was always general anxiety disorder. And I've been through quite a few diagnoses before: autism, ADHD. I've also got a few comorbid diagnosis as well. But yeah, and I guess friendships and relationships as well. It's been really difficult not being myself or who I want to be, my authentic self, who I am, or I try to be now.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Lou. I think you've really hit a lot of points that, I mean, they resonate with me. I'm sure they resonate with you guys too. And I think the impact of masking, both on our physical and mental health, on our employment, our social abilities, our relationships, there's just, it's never ending, that impact. It affects every area. And you've demonstrated that really well in your answer. So thank you so much. Carolyn, I wonder about you. Do you want to share a little bit about masking?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Again, I would say a couple of ways I would mask. I would say I was kind of a master from a very young age of observation. Because I was very quiet, I would observe people. So kind of I would, use other people's conversations, mannerisms, and that's how I would mask. I would act. I would act through my, mastery of observating normal people, somehow being able to exist in normal life. Even stuff like this is something that does help me articulate myself, but I would also quite literally use, again, to try and exist in the normal world, is I think it's kind of like the scripting thing where, conversations I'd hear in film or television shows and be like, oh my God, that's what I'm trying to say, and that's helping me there. But also I would use that in conversations with people, or even, before I have to, socialize or go to work, and be with people, I would literally kind of do almost role playing with myself and kind of getting in the zone of the character of, Carolyn to exist out there. So yeah, by observing other people, what they say, how they behave, how they move, forcing eye contact, which is excruciating for me, and which again I'm trying to not do as much. And yeah, just Oscar-worthy acting and having absolute burnout, which before burnout, I would then start to crack and have meltdowns, which I would have, at work, before I got into my career in my peer support. So I would say before that, so what is it, maybe in the early to mid O's, when I was like more of a career girl, after my studies, which were hell on earth, because again, masking, hated it, didn't understand anything unless it was literally creative stuff. I studied media, I then went into kind of the career world, and I just acted like other people. I managed a huge team of 80 people. I managed a huge banking account. I went into that kind of corporate world, and it was not me at all. And again, after every day, I was exhausted. I dreaded getting up. I was mentally exhausted. My face would hurt from fake smiling, fake conversations, and just being like, I hate why I'm being so fake, and this isn't me. But even if my mask slipped a little bit, the weirdo, you know, or the you know, the divas coming out or whatever. And it's like, no, I just can't exist in this world as myself. I cannot do it. And you burn out. But yeah, it's using stuff like that, just a lifetime of looking at others to try and be like others as opposed to myself, and doing myself a massive disservice. But it seemed to be the only way I could kind of get anywhere. And then, you know, I stopped doing that because of some really bad ill health, and then became peer support. And you know, I'm with my kind. I need to be with my kind. So you know, people like yourselves, Naz, I need to be with my people. So yeah, that's kind of what masking was like, and it's exhausting. Even just thinking about it's exhausting.
Yeah, thank you, Carolyn. And I think you said a lot there that worked with Lou's analogy of it being an internal fight. It's a battle, it's a fight. And at the end of a fight, you're exhausted. And yeah, it's a difficult one. And I can also tell you that, like you, Carolyn, the amount of times I have taken lines directly from TV shows and just used them in my daily life to try and fit in. And it's that kind of learning that we all resonate with. I think we all experience on some level that observation, deep observation. And I think that's why a lot of us are often missed later in life, because we have observed and practiced and rehearsed and performed so diligently for so long until we can't anymore. And then, yeah, we find our kind. And that's really special when we do.
What would you say to anyone who's figuring out now that they're autistic later in life? And I can start us off. So I would say is to be kind to yourself. After you realize that you're autistic, you'll have so much new information to process, and it can be a really confusing and emotional time. As we've kind of talked about, you've got the grief to work through and you've got all that processing to do. But as we say on the programme, it's not just about knowing the information, it's about how we put it to use to live confidently as our authentic autistic selves. But it's not an easy thing to do, and it takes a long time, and it won't happen overnight. It can be really difficult for us to put ourselves first, especially after a lifetime of masking and people-pleasing. So just be kind to yourself throughout the entire process and take small steps towards creating a life that works for you. And can we move on to Carolyn next?
Yeah, absolutely, in total agreement with what you said, Heather. And again, I'm not the most articulate, and I think I said it a few questions ago, but I would say feel the feels. Feel the feels. I get my arms are open as some peer support, but feel the feels. You're not alone. There is support out there, but you will need to kind of also go through your own process, and it'll take time, especially as you know with a late diagnosis. But feel it, whatever the emotions are, and just know that there is support out there if you need it. We're here.
And Lou, would you like to go next?
Yeah, I think because after, straight after I received my diagnosis, you get the diagnostic report, and I felt like, what do I do now? And they do give you some links and stuff. Sadly, you don't get, support directly after that. But NAS has probably been my biggest support, just because it's been really, really flexible, and you can kind of speak to anyone you want, and it's just been awesome, and I've been able to connect with some people through it as well, and just finding your people and the validation, and like even this podcast, we were talking about things and we were all like, oh yeah, I agree, and that is helping me feel like less of a weirdo and less alone, like floating through the universe. That it's so hard. Yeah, and I like Carolyn said, feel all the feels. Sometimes I don't know what to feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I realized I've struggled with that, so it's okay also to not know what to feel, I think. Yeah, it's just been really difficult, interesting, life-changing, and it's fine to feel all of these things, you know.
Thank you, Lou. And finally, Claire.
Yeah, I think I would reiterate everything you guys have said. You know, it's there's so much to process, unlearn, relearn when you realize you're autistic, and it really is a journey. And like you said, Heather, it takes time. So yeah, knowing you're autistic and knowing that there's people out there like you is beautiful and powerful. Like I think Carolyn said, you're not alone. And you know, so many people who join What's Next, we meet so many people and they tell us that they're really grateful for that peer support element of the program, because it's something they've never experienced before, and it really helps them. So for my own journey, I'd agree. I never had anything like What's Next when I was first diagnosed, so I was so excited to begin the project. And I'd say that seeking out neurodivergent spaces and meeting other autistic people is so fulfilling and really helpful. And like Lou says, you know, connect with your people. Might take a while to find them, but we're out here too, you know. And it's okay. I think Lou, what you said, just Lou and Carolyn, feel the feels. Lou, it's okay not to know what the feels are. Like all of that is brilliant. It's not necessarily an easy or straightforward answer. There's no guidebook. There's no right or wrong way to feel any of this and to be autistic even. So just take your time. And I think the most important thing I would say to somebody figuring out now that they're autistic is know that you're deserving of grace, you are deserving of kindness, and you are deserving of a life that works for you and your identity and your autism.
Thank you both so much for coming. It's been great to have you guys on, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye, folks.